Alright, hello everybody. My name is Eric Taysom. I did my capstone project on climbing, and let's get started. As humans, we are capable of many things. Crawling, walking, rolling, running, jumping, skipping, climbing, flying, and flipping are a few among many amazing things we use to traverse this world. And instead of covering all the different aspects and all the different things that we can do of life, we're going to cover one, and that is climbing. Climbing is a skill that we see from a very early age. And then we also see it progress through life as it becomes a part of our everyday living. Whether it's a baby climbing the stairs, or a young girl climbing a tree, or a firefighter who is climbing a ladder to rescue someone in a burning building, or even these crazy people who decide to climb these sheer cliffs and often are hanging upside down, like that guy. We see climbing all around us, every single day. But it begs the question, where does it all begin? I think to really grasp climbing, you really have to take a step back and examine climbing at its core. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this video and give you guys a definition of climbing. Alright, the Oxford Dictionary defines the word climb as to go or to come up, especially by using the feet and sometimes the hands, or to ascend. Alright, so with that said, at what point in life do we actually begin to go up, or to come up with the use of our feet or our hands? According to a study done by Berger in 2007, there were 700 parents that recorded when and how their infants started to climb stairs. What Berger found was that the mean age, the average age, for successfully ascending the stairs, actually going up, was 11 months. And the mean age for going down or descending the stairs was 12 and a half months. I love this clip. This is actually what my son does when he goes down the stairs, and it is hilarious every time. Berger's studies also showed that kids that had stairs in their home, they were more likely to learn how to ascend and to descend stairs at a younger age. Not all babies are similar, of course, and they are all developmentally different, and they're exposed to many different environments that support or inhibit the development of gross motor skills such as climbing. So as I did research for climbing, when I would do my research, I would actually find the same amount, or if not more, articles and research work done on crawling. Crawling really is kind of the beginning of climbing. It's the basis and where you kind of develop the skills for climbing from. So with that, let's look at crawling really quick. And instead of watching climbing videos or my face, I found more awesome clips of babies crawling. What could be better? So a study done by McEwen in 1991 emphasized the importance of an early crawling experience in the development of sensory and motor systems of the body in general motor skill development. So this is why I really kind of wanted to dive into crawling really quick and look at some of the studies that I found. So a super interesting study, at least very fascinating to me, was done by Atun Eni in 2013, who was able to draw a correlation between the seasons and motor development, specifically with crawling. Crawling is a precursor to climbing, so naturally, if crawling was delayed, so would climbing. The study examined a large number of children in Israeli homes, and the parents reported on their progress for crawling, and if there was any correlation with this season, winter, fall, spring, summer. The results were very interesting in that the infants born during the winter and spring started crawling around 4 weeks earlier than the infants born in the summer and fall. This proves the involvement of the season in the achievement of certain motor skills for infants, and suggests that there are certain aspects of the physical environment that frame the experiences that contribute to developmental progress. So it's not the season itself, but it's something about the season. So I looked further into it. The factors that are a result of the seasonal differences could be daylight hours, clothing worn, time spent indoors, susceptibility to disease, and opportunities to just be on the floor and to move around and wiggle around and practice crawling. Those all will affect locomotor experience opportunities. If a child is within the age range for crawling but is not exposed to enough ground time or enough sunlight in the day, or perhaps he's sick, maybe it's really cold in the winter and they have a really bad cold all winter, that child will be delayed in their development of crawling. According to Atun Eni in 2013, the average onset of crawling was 31 weeks. Um, and among all of the children studied, there was no difference found among the genders, and so it doesn't matter male, female, totally the same. Another observation made by Adolf in 1998 was that the smaller, slimmer, more maturely proportioned infants tended to crawl at earlier ages than the larger, chubbier infants. 4 weeks doesn't sound like a huge deal, but when you look at their life so far, you compare those results, and that's a 14% difference of lifetime at the onset of crawling. So that's a pretty significant portion of their life. So, like I said, although the study was about the seasonal effect of motor development, it's not the season itself or the weather it brings that actually affects the development, but it's the notion that seasonality impacts the behavior based on environmental factors, whether it's cold, hot, windy, which affects motor development. One example could be that in colder weather, children are more bundled up, therefore having the decreased mobility and having a harder time learning to crawl because they're so bundled up. Another factor that plays a role in the development of climbing could be lifestyle. If parents are consistent at encouraging the skills of climbing or crawling, the child might be seen climbing or crawling at a slightly younger age. If the kids see their parents engaging in physical activity, sports, or anything that is like a crawling type activity, the more likely they're going to try to mimic those same movements. Adversely, on the other side, if parents don't expose their children to climbing opportunities or crawling opportunities, or maybe they're overprotective of their children who, one would most likely see delays in crawling or climbing. Another example of lifestyle as a factor could be the types of toys and play area the child is exposed to. So, if the child is given a large space to crawl around with toys that are far and wide at varying heights, the child's more likely to want to crawl and be able to survey the room more efficiently to get to those toys. All right, back to climbing. A study done by Quatman Yates in 2012 looks at the sensory motor function of pre-adolescent and adolescent children. Yates wanted to see which sensory motor mechanisms were not fully mature by the time children reach adolescence, and whether adolescence is a period when children exhibit delays or even regressions in sensory motor mechanisms. In his study, the results, what he got was that there are sensory motor functions that continue to mature through adolescence, but some of the children showed signs of regression or delay in sensory mechanisms. This is that awkward stage, coming into your body, that we all remember that was so dreadful back when we were younger. All of our movements were so uncoordinated, really. The sensory motor mechanisms that are not fully mature by this time, uh, when they reach adolescence, there are a lot of them. There's a list of them here. Is visual mechanisms, some of the somatosensory mechanisms, vestibular mechanisms, multisensory reweighting mechanisms, um, some signal conduction and processing mechanisms, muscular and postural control, and intersegmental and interlimb coordination. Those last two are very key for climbing and crawling specifically. One final thought on that study is that there's a regression of motor control where children will sacrifice speed and variability in movement for the sake of accuracy and control. So they have to really slow down to make sure that their movements are correct and efficient because they're awkward. It's just their movements aren't as fluid as they would normally be. as a side note, these last two clips obviously aren't the normal um, display of climbing. I just wanted you guys to see them because they're awesome, and just know that those are two extreme examples. Really quick, I want to go over two more factors that I've got right here. I won't go too far into them, but there's a study done by Chandler in 1996 that looks at the use of tranquilizers by pregnant mothers in the first trimester, and that the exposure to the tranquilizers as well as amphetamines were a significant predictor of decreased balance skills in infants. Because of the slowing effects of these drugs, as well as the known effects of alcohol abuse in those same women, um, it was quite apparent that there was a delay in the climbing ability of those children who experienced that exposure. Another factor, according to Vemegi in 2013, is the BMI, is where children end up on the BMI scale. Children that were overweight or obese or had a higher BMI resulted in a lower performance than the children who were in a healthy BMI range. The children that were higher on the BMI scale had a harder time with mobility, coordination, and even energy level during the day. So BMI was a really big factor in the development of climbing. All right, so most of the changes that we see in climbing occur obviously during infancy up into adolescence, but we do see changes or differences in adults as well. So let's get back to adults, and I'll go ahead and put up another awesome video of some crazy rock climbing. All right, the last study I have for you guys was done by Sanchez in 2010. What he did was he examined the effects of previewing a given route on a rock wall and then compared it to a group of people who had no previous knowledge of the specific hold placements before climbing it. The results showed that there was no effect on the person's ability to climb to the top. Both groups were able to get to the end, whether they previewed it or not. However, those who were able to map out a strategy showed less stopping time and more fluid movements or better form during their climb. This could be due to the subject group being moderate to expert level climbers where reaching the top is pretty inevitable. Whereas with a child, preview of a course may make the difference in one's ability to complete the course at all. By previewing the route beforehand, one is able to optimize performance through a certain pre-knowledge that may be the difference in execution or completion of a task. If preview is not an option, certain physical immaturities or gross motor skills may result in failure or decreased finesse or fluidity in their exercise. This study was able to prove the importance of visual route inspection in terms of efficiency, safety, and optimal performance. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. That is my presentation on climbing and a little bit on crawling actually. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something, that you could take something away from that, and have a Merry Christmas and a awesome New Year.